Storm pushing into the mid-state, clearing out store shelves as snow, ice, and freezing rain are all on the table.
No choice but to stay open.
We took a big hit. Lots of lost revenue.
How just a day or two of winter weather can break small businesses.
Plus, an inferno grows in the City of Angels, the absolute devastation across Los Angeles.
A final goodbye, the touching tribute for former President Jimmy Carter. Fox 17 News at 9 starts now.
Middle Tennessee's only primetime news. This is Fox 17 News at 9, your Code Red station.
Fox 17 News at 9 begins with a code red weather alert as Middle Tennessee braces for a big winter storm. Now, what we want to show you right now is a live look at Oklahoma City, where the same storm system that's coming here has already covered the roads there. You see some people on the highway, but not many, and it's all headed our way.
And this is a live look downtown over Broadway here. The Tennessee Emergency Management Agency already declaring a state of emergency. Code Red Chief Meteorologist Katie Morgan in the Code Red Weather Center breaking it all down for us.
This is a big storm that is moving across a lot of the country. Everywhere in pink is a winter storm warning, and around it, surrounding it, are winter weather advisories, which is a little less than a warning. So we are right in the heart of this winter storm, and it is ongoing through Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and is knocking on the doorstep now of Memphis here in Tennessee. Still looking at mainly snow with this event, and for now, I think this is going to be it as far as our forecast goes. 5 to 7 inches in the dark blue. I think this may be our sweet spot where we end up with a few higher pockets of snow. The 7 and the potential for 8 won't be widespread, but I do think that this is going to be the area, if we were to see it, that's where it would be. 4 to 6 to the north, 4 to 6 to the south, but the south may run into an icing problem. It's not going to be significant, but it could cut down on snow totals a little bit, and we'll discuss that in just a bit. Regardless on an inch or two more here or less here, this is a major impact for everyone. In fact, widespread moderate impacts, and now looking at major impacts mainly in city centers. But again, this is going to be a day that we just don't want to be out on the roads if you can help it. Temperatures tonight, quite cold. That is not a question. The cold air is in place. So we will be looking at winter weather, winter precipitation throughout this event here. When does the snow start? Again, still mainly a snow event. First snowflakes arriving 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. for those in orange, yellow 4 to 7 a.m. and in purple we're looking at 6 to 9 a.m. for this system to arrive. Bottom line, if you can be where you need to be on Friday, now, tonight, that's the best case scenario. If you need to be somewhere else by tomorrow morning, I would do it early in the morning because again, even here in Nashville, I think those snowflakes start as early as 5 to 6 o'clock in the morning. We are going to be talking more about what we can expect timing throughout the day, when the heaviest snowfall is expected, and where we might see a little bit of freezing rain and perhaps even some sleet as we head through the afternoon hours tomorrow, and what that does to our snow totals. That's coming up in your Fox 17 Code Red forecast.
When we're closed, we're not making any money. Our staff isn't making money.
Business owners worried about losing money as this winter storm churns in.
Now this after some of these same businesses lost tens of thousands of dollars to bad weather last year.
Well, Fox 17 News' Karen Aguilar joining us live inside Nobles in Metro Center. And Karen, Noble says they're going to be staying open tomorrow to avoid a profit loss. That must be a tough call to make.
Megan, Nobles is staying open to avoid a devastating loss. As you can see here tonight, there are a lot of people, but the co-owner tells me that even if it's not packed tomorrow, they'll still be serving customers. Another business owner I spoke with tells me staying open is 50-50.
Is there anything else y'all need?
Sue White is a co-owner of Nobles at Metro Center. She tells me this location is only a few months old.
We were paying rent for almost 6 months without having any income.
So closing it because of Friday's winter storm is not an option.
We're going to try to do everything we can to make sure that the business is profitable.
She's also committed to staying open to take care of her customers. and so her workers can pay the bills. Those that can't show up to work because of the bad weather don't have to. If no one shows up, White and her husband will cook the food and serve customers themselves.
We literally live less than a mile from here, so if we can't get in our car, if our car is frozen, we'll walk.
Their other Nobles in East Nashville will also be open, just like it was for last year's winter storm. But a business just a few blocks down, Margot Cafe and Bar, did close for a few days.
Hadley, you're going to be tootling him from the grill.
The owner, Margot McCormack, tells me they lost around $50,000.
We took a big hit. Lots of lost revenue. So not a great way to start the year at all, in the hole.
Leaning towards closing Friday, but still unsure.
Yeah, it's just, and it really hurts when it's a weekend and you have more reservations.
She tells me weekend nights, they make anywhere between $10,000 to $12,000. So she hopes the storm is not as bad, so she can keep her doors open this time.
Both business owners tell me they want everyone to be safe, whether or not they'll be open. And they tell me that if you need to stay home, please do. Reporting live in Nashville, Karen Aguilar, Fox 17 News, your Code Red station.
Continuing our winter storm coverage, take a look at this. This is the Publix out in Brentwood earlier today. Shoppers cleaned out store shelves ahead of the snowstorm. A lot of people there trying to get last minute things. Not a lot left to get. And also getting ahead of these school closings here. We're just getting new information into our Fox 17 newsroom. You can find that complete running list on our website of school closures tomorrow, fox17.com. They'll also be ticking at the bottom of your screen, and this also includes all state offices as well.
Now, we have high confidence that this is going to be a pretty major storm tomorrow. Significant, we'll put it that way. And as it comes in, we need your help to get pictures and videos that we can share on the air. If you will, scan the QR code there on your screen. That will allow you to share snow and other pictures and video directly with us on Chime In. And Fox 17 News will have you covered during this winter storm. In fact, we are already planning on extended coverage, inviting you to tune in for a special Saturday morning edition of Fox 17 this morning. That will start at 6 a.m. Saturday morning right here on Fox.
We're not asking for the moon.
Tonight, in the high cost of homelessness, Brookmeade Park will reopen in a few weeks after the city shut it down 2 years ago to clean out one of the city's largest homeless camps.
Now, Metro shut it down, as Megan said, more than 2 years ago so they could clean up some damage done by the homeless who had turned this park into one of the city's largest homeless camps.
We are standing just outside of Brookmeade Park, and you can see behind me there's still fencing all around the park. Now, if you take a peek inside, though, it's very clean, but you can't see any amenities, and it's just an open space. And neighbors tell me they are not happy.
2.5 years ago, this is what you would see when walking inside Brookmeade Park. Fast forward to now, it's cleaned up with no one living in the park.
Looks like they've taken 2 years to do much of nothing.
But Brookmeade is a few weeks away from reopening, and it's not exactly what folks in West Nashville had in mind.
This looks like a penitentiary to me, with boulders, barbed wire, and a gate that only opens if you have a code. What's the plan? Is it so hard to tell us?
After Fox 17 News reported the city paid for a community input survey that never happened, Parks put out a survey. The results showed neighbors most wanted paddleboard and kayak access, disc golf, restrooms, and a history trail. Well, they're not getting any of that, as the chair of the Metro Parks Board says Brookmeade will just be turned back into its original state.
I mean, there's a paved walkway. The overlook has been rebuilt, but for what we wanted after what this community has suffered through in the last decade, it in no way measures up to what we deserve.
It's a slap in the face for Dee Dee Bird and Tim Tomes, who feel their community is being neglected.
We're not asking for the moon. We're simply asking that this park be made something that people will want to come to.
A spokesperson for Metro Park says while the survey responses are great suggestions, they're not viable because of the topography, acreage, accessibility, and/or costs. She goes on to say the park is best left as it was originally designed a greenway with open space. Now, Metro Parks has not given an exact reopening date for Brookmeade Park. We, of course, will let you know when we get that date. Reporting from Brookmeade Park, I'm Amanda Chin, Fox 17 News, your Code Red station.
Burning out of control, the heartbreaking scene in California where wildfires continue to force thousands from their homes.
And Music City's own Garth Brooks and his wife Trisha Yearwood helping to sing home former President Jimmy Carter today in Washington. The 39th president's lasting legacy from a local woman who worked alongside Mr. Carter at the White House.
Happening now, more than 100,000 people in the Los Angeles area leaving their homes as thousands of structures are burning to the ground.
The video out there is absolutely crazy. Now, first responders confirming 7 deaths. They expect that number to climb. Fox correspondent Sarah Allegri tonight with the very latest from L.A.
It's all gone. Oh, God. A painful new reality for thousands of residents in Los Angeles County. Deadly wildfires have flattened entire neighborhoods into piles of smoldering rubble. I don't know how we're going to come back from this. I don't even know where to start. Calmer weather allowed crews to resume aggressive firefighting efforts Thursday, while also clearing the way for many to begin surveying damage.
The devastation out there is catastrophic.
In Washington, President Biden announced additional federal funding to help. Money will cover 100% of the cost of hazardous material removal, temporary shelters, and first responders' salaries.
We're doing literally everything we can at a federal level.
Hundreds of additional National Guardsmen also being deployed to assist local law enforcement. It comes after authorities say they've made several arrests for looting.
They will be assisting us with traffic control and critical infrastructure protection.
Meanwhile, hundreds of thousands of people remain under evacuation orders as the fires continue burning out of control. The two largest, the Palisades and Eaton fires, have already destroyed nearly 28,000 acres. LA officials warn they could spread even further as powerful Santa Ana winds pick up again at the end of this week. While not over yet, the estimated cost of those deadly wildfires could reach up to $150 billion. In Los Angeles, Sarah Allegri, Fox News.
It really is fire and ice, basically, here right now in the U.S. They're dealing with their problems out on the West Coast. We are bracing for impact for winter weather headed our way.
And this is going to be, of course, something that is active for Friday. But the impacts from the event that's going to be around for a while. Temperatures aren't really going to climb too much here. We'll get some melting by the end of the weekend, but then we look at another cold front coming in next week. So we will see refreezing for many mornings here, even going into next week. Timing for the most intense snowfall will be late morning into the afternoon, and then we'll start to taper off as we head into the evening hours. So again, really looking at intense snowfall as we head through much of the afternoon and the mid-morning tomorrow. Here's kind of a basic graphic on what we could find here in Middle Tennessee. I think most of us in Middle Tennessee and Southern Kentucky are looking at least 3 to 5 inches of snow. 5 to 7 is what is most likely for much of the area. 7 to 8 is possible in pockets or in these bands that decide to set up that can create more snow. Again, here's the map. That 5 to 7 here in dark blue, 4 to 6 in Southern Kentucky and in our southern counties closer to the Alabama border. One of the things that could change that snow total, especially for those along and south of I-40, is this warm nose of air. You've heard us talk about this, the northern track bringing in some warmer air. It's not at the surface though, it's above the surface, and that's where we start to play with different precipitation types. There is a chance that we could see a light freezing rain. Last model runs over the last, I'd say 24 hours have started to hint more at this. Freezing rain developing in our southern counties. That would create a light glaze of ice. Just beyond that, I would say as far north as the I-40 corridor, we are looking at the potential for sleet. So during the afternoon tomorrow, I would even say here in Nashville, I wouldn't be surprised if we have a little sleet mixing in with snow. Just keep in mind, if we do see that or rain, which would be freezing rain with temperatures below freezing, We are looking at slightly less snow totals. This could cut into our totals that we have forecasted. I don't think it's going to be prolonged enough, though, that it's going to create a major impact in lowering our snow totals, but it could have some impact, so keep that in mind. Temperatures tomorrow will be at, if not below freezing for the high, possibly a little above freezing here as you head south. So we are looking at anything to fall. It'll be accumulating as we go through the afternoon. So let's walk you through future track with timing. This is 5, 6, 7, and even 8 o'clock. So as we head through the overnight, by 8 a.m., we are looking at the snow showers to be area-wide through Middle Tennessee and Southern Kentucky. I want you to note, too, some of these darker blue bands. This is heavier snow that is popping up. And 10 a.m., you can see pink in our southern counties. That would be the freezing rain potential. Going into the late morning, early afternoon. 12 p.m. still, this is heavy snow here in dark blue, pink, indicating a mix to the south and even hinting at a little bit of rain near the Alabama border. That would be where temperatures are just above freezing, and it's a good old-fashioned rain for us. I think this might be even some sleet as we get into the middle of the afternoon here, even in Nashville and Murfreesboro, but it won't be long. In fact, we'll move forward, and you can see we transition back to snow within maybe an hour or so. So again, I don't expect it to create a major impact in lowering snow totals, but it may have a minor impact, which, case in point, it's just going to be a mess for tomorrow. Whether we're talking about a little bit of winter mix or all snow, we are all looking at a big impact event. Friday, 8 p.m., you can see those snow showers start to clear. That's the end of the event. We're left with some flurries and minor snow showers with little additional accumulation for Saturday morning. We keep cloud cover around for Saturday. That's not great as far as melting goes. I don't see good melting moving in until Sunday. We'll talk more about the lasting impacts with this system coming up.
I'm Kayla Gaskins. Coming up, we'll unpack the latest effort to limit terms in Congress.
Also ahead, closed but not abandoned, how workers at the Nashville Zoo plan to keep the animals safe during our upcoming winter storm. This is a live look at Capitol Hill tonight, where there's a push for new congressional term limits.
We apologize for not having that live look, but Fox 17 News' Kayla Gaskins with the bills targeting the issue in both the House and the Senate. And by the way, you can let us know what you think by scanning a QR code that will appear here shortly before this story.
Nancy Pelosi returned to Washington with a walker following her hip surgery. The images going viral on social media, highlighting not only her age, but the decades she spent in power on Capitol Hill.
If this isn't an iconic photo that sums up the majority of our Congress, I don't know what is.
This as talk of term limits are gaining steam. Resolutions making their way through the House and the Senate to cap the number of years one can spend in Congress.
We have it on the president. We have it on most of the governors in the states. A lot of state legislatures have it. It's time for it on Congress. The public knows. It's just the one thing that they can't get over is they're unwilling to give up that power and that self-interest.
News broke last month that now former Representative Kay Granger from Texas didn't cast a vote for 6 months in office because the 81-year-old was in a memory care facility. Mitch McConnell has made headlines for his concerning freezes during speeches. Senator Dianne Feinstein died in office at 90 between votes on the Hill.
The Senate is like an assisted living facility.
The new Congress is the third oldest on record, and the new Senate is the oldest to ever serve. Senator Chuck Grassley, now the oldest at 91. Congressman Hal Rogers, not far behind at 87. Congresswoman Maxine Waters is the third oldest member at 86. Senator Ted Cruz leading the Senate effort. His proposal limits representatives to 3 terms, so 6 years of service, and senators to 2 terms, amounting to 12 years in office. Scott Tillman, the chief operations officer for the group U.S. Term Limits, points out age and ability is far from the only concern.
The longer Congress people stay in office, the less they represent their constituents and the more they start to represent special interests and other people in Congress.
The latest Pew Research poll shows broad bipartisan support for congressional term limits. 87% of voters say they approve of a constitutional amendment to implement the changes. I'm Kayla Gaskins reporting. During that story, we had a QR code linked up to this poll tonight asking the question, should there be term limits for members of Congress? The results here on your screen. Almost 700 people weighing in tonight. 97% of respondents say yes. 3% say no. Thanks for voting.
Just ahead, not all animals enjoy winter weather like this. The steps that animals, zoo staff, let's put it that way, are taking to make sure that our animals are cozy in this cold.
And making sure the fun doesn't end with a trip to the ER. What to know before you head out sledding.
Safe and warm during the storm that we are expecting this weekend starting tomorrow. Now the zoo is going to be closed both tomorrow and Saturday. They do have zookeepers though that will be staying overnight on site, so they'll be there in the morning when the snow hits. The zoo says some of their animals love the chance to get out and play in the snow, like these red pandas that we found in the snow there last year. But zookeepers say they are prepared for the weather ahead.
The animals are our absolute first priority, and they have everything set up for them and ready to go already with this cold weather. We have heated water buckets, hay for them to bed down in, and depending on what animal it is, we have different things ready for them for the incoming weather.
Sounds like preparation to me. Now again, the National Zoo is going to be closed tomorrow and Saturday, and the zoo illumination display will also be closed.
Well, heavy snowfall in the south usually calls for road closures, flight cancellations, and school snow days. And while kids are eager to get out and enjoy the winter activities, they should do so with caution. Monroe Carroll Jr. Children's Hospital sees its fair share of ER visits every year. Stacy Pachenka, manager of the Trauma and Injury Prevention Program, joins us here. Good evening, Stacy.
Hello.
So what are the most common snow-related injuries that you see walk through the door at the hospital?
We see a good variety, but some of the most concerning tend to stem from sledding injuries just because of the high velocity of speed and the potential to run into things. So when kiddos are out having a great time in the snow, we want them to dress warm, we want them to enjoy themselves. They also need parental supervision, but the main thing is don't use things that shouldn't be used as a sled. Don't use a kayak to sled down a hill. Don't tow the kids with an ATV or a truck. Just, make sure it's a safe environment, that they're not going to crash into trees, mailboxes, guardrails. Make sure they're not going to go over anything. Make sure they're not going to go into a body of water, and they're going to have a great time.
Well, interesting. You we remember the Westmoreland senior that severed her spinal cord and broke her C5 bone in her neck. She slid down a hill on a mattress liner and crashed into a fence. So how do we prevent those types of injuries?
The main thing you want to do is make sure it's something you can steer. Using a garbage can lid, while it might be creative, you really can't steer it. So a classic sled, which you can get for pretty inexpensive, that's going to allow them to have the handles that they can hold on to and steer it around. They also really should not be head first. They want to be, sitting on their bottom or kind of leaning back. Just using them as they should be used. We also, if you want to put a bike helmet on them, great, extra protection, but it's also about the environment. Like I said, making sure that they're not going to swing into a mailbox or hit that tree and cause those head and spinal injuries.
Great advice there. Now, Stacey, if God forbid somebody does get seriously hurt after a sledding accident, what should you be doing while you're waiting for first responders?
Definitely keep them warm. They're likely laying in the snow if they're injured, so grab a blanket, put it over them. Don't move them, especially if you suspect a head or neck injury. We want to let the professionals assess that. Just try to keep them calm, try to get a really good understanding of what injuries they're having so that can be relayed to our first responders as soon as possible.
All right, Stacey, great conversation, great advice tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, Fox 17 will be posting updates online as soon as the snow begins to fall. That's tomorrow on the Fox 17 News YouTube channel, where you can also see the very latest from our Code Red weather team tracking this winter storm. Speaking of which,
it is on the way as we head into the early morning hours here, as early as 2-3 a.m. for our counties closest to the Tennessee River. I think here in Nashville, downtown on Broadway, we will likely start to see snowflakes falling about 5 to 6 in the morning. And we'll start light at first, but quickly within a few hours, we will start to see more moderate snowfall take over for us here. And you can see that it does continue to push through portions of Texas, a lot through Oklahoma, through Arkansas as well, knocking on the doorstep of Tennessee, even seeing snow in Mississippi this evening. These are the current road conditions that we're having right now. Things okay here, of course, but we head to the south and a little bit to the west here throughout Texas. Notice Dallas picking up snowfall today. They have icy road conditions. This lighter color that you see, that's all reported as snowy, and then of course wet here in green. We will be looking at a lot of this as we head into the next 12 hours, not even that. So it will be deteriorating throughout the day. Again, a great day not just to not be on the roads if you don't have to. New record likely for tomorrow, by the way, forecasting 5 to 7 inches of snow here in town. The record, the daily record for the 10th of January is 3 inches, a long-standing record, by the way, set back in 1895. We'll talk more about the lasting impacts that we could see, that coming up.
Also ahead, a symbol of America's greatness. Thoughts on former President Jimmy Carter's funeral service today from a local woman who worked for him in the Carter White House.
And dangerous chemicals near schools, the potential threat. And the question tonight, how is this legal? A touching tribute for former President Jimmy Carter as his loved ones honored him privately in the church that he called home for decades. The motorcade escorting the casket of the 39th U.S. president to Mariantha Baptist Church in the city of Plains, Georgia, President Carter's hometown. The former president was a devout evangelical and taught Sunday school there for years.
From his humble beginning as a Georgia farmer to his incredible accomplishments as commander-in-chief, President Carter embodied the ideas of a life of service.
Well, at the state funeral for President Carter in Washington today, all 5 living former presidents were in attendance to honor his life and legacy, including former Vice Presidents Al Gore and Mike Pence.
As we continue to remember the late President Jimmy Carter, we get some perspective on his funeral service today from a woman who was there in person. Linda Shadd, our friend, is a former staffer in the Carter White House. She makes her home here in Nashville, but Linda, I know you've been in D.C. for the last 3 days. I'm so glad you could go. An emotional service today, truly a celebration of this American life. If you will, share your thoughts about the service, and let's start with the Carter grandsons and their tributes.
Yes, well, you know, when you live to be 100, it's your grandsons who are going to give your eulogies, right? And I thought it was wonderful that it began with the first lesson focused on the fact that he was a Sunday school teacher from one of his grandsons. And then, of course, the one that talked the most about the Carter Center, because he's the chair there, was Jason, who is the son of Jack, the oldest son of the Carters. And Jason is, you know, a wonderful speaker who brought not only the humanity of his grandfather to us by saying that they called him Papa, right? But also what he learned about the world from his grandfather, and then the final reading by the third grandson. You know, I think, Scott, that, you know, the themes that we heard today really are the lessons that Jimmy Carter left for us. I mean, we heard speaker after speaker talk about how he was leading with truth, that he did what was right even if it was politically unpopular, that he put the country first, that he tried to do the impossible. We heard that from Stu Eisenstadt and talking about the Camp David Accords, and that he would persist even when everyone counseled him against it and still would succeed. And then finally, with the Carter Center, he taught us how to accept loss, how to go after 1980, losing the presidency, and create the Carter Center, and for 40 years continued to bring good to the world.
Now, so many great speakers. Among them, I was struck by former UN Ambassador Andrew Young calling Mr. Carter a symbol of greatness, of the greatness of the United States, and a blessing who unlocked the greatness of our country. I feel like you feel the same.
Oh, I do. You know, Andrew Young also said he had a strong mind and a tender heart. And I think the idea that he's a blessing it was reflected in some of the other speakers who talked about him as a model for our times, as a Renaissance man who was a peacemaker and a fly fisherman, but also who was a decent and good man who believed in this country and was, yes, as Andrew Young said, a blessing to each and every one of us who worked with him and to the country and the world.
A great service today. Linda Shadd in Washington, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, dangerous chemicals near our schools, why this is allowed.
And how crews at Nashville International Airport are gearing up for tomorrow's winter storm.
Plus, we'll talk more about some of the lasting impacts that we could see, how long we could see some of this refreezing occur.
Light on America, historic action by the Environmental Protection Agency to protect the public from dangerous weed killers.
Fox 17 News' Lisa Fletcher taking a closer look at the laundry list of pesticides routinely sprayed across the U.S., sometimes even near schools and children.
I hope that as a society that we would place the health of our children above the look of a lawn.
But landscapes across America, from neighborhoods to playgrounds and school sports fields, are often coated in toxic chemicals. In fact, more than 1 billion pounds of pesticides are sprayed on U.S. lands every year and float beyond their intended targets.
These pesticides trespass on our property and into our bodies.
Ling Tan knows it well. She remembers smelling pesticides outside her Maryland home and worrying about her children who have asthma.
Everywhere my kids turn, they could not get away from it.
Kids are more vulnerable to the effects of the poisons in pesticides, potentially impacting their developing brains, organs, and immune systems.
Pesticides are by design designed to kill things, and the exposure to pesticides, especially to kids when they're still developing, can pose real harms.
Scott Faber is the Senior Vice President of Government Affairs at the Environmental Working Group, which mapped thousands of elementary schools across America in the path of agricultural pesticides. When you saw the results of that, what went through your mind?
Well, honestly, I was shocked. I had no idea that so many schools were that close to farm fields and that there was this risk.
EWG found more than 4,000 elementary schools located within 200 feet of a crop field where pesticides could be applied, leaving kids at risk of inhaling or ingesting the toxic drift. And the dangers go far beyond those 200 feet. We totaled the number of elementary schools within a quarter mile of crop fields and found nearly 26,000, which still isn't the end of the line. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, these sprayed poisons can float for hundreds of miles.
You'd think that we wouldn't need laws that say, don't crop dust the local school, but some states have had to pass laws to limit the spray planes from spraying over schools and spraying pesticides on our kids and teachers.
The protections vary from state to state. California and Texas require the use of low-risk pesticides. Louisiana and Pennsylvania require schools to track students who are sensitive to pesticides. Georgia and New Mexico limit the times when spraying can be done near schools.
There are no federal laws that are designed to take into account that schools may be disproportionately exposed or schools might be right next to farm fields.
In the absence of those laws, parents like Ling Tan are pushing ahead. She and just a few other parents raised concerns and got the first countywide ban passed on pesticides in the U.S.
It's really frustrating because as parents, we think that the government at the federal level is looking out for us. As a mom and as parents, we need to speak up instead of looking the other way.
For Spotlight on America, I'm Lisa Fletcher.
Well, we start this evening here with a live look over Cookeville, one of the areas expected to receive between 5 and 7 inches of snow. Could find a pocket closer to 8 near Cookeville as we head through the day tomorrow. And as we take a live look here downtown Springfield, looking nice and sleepy, but will be snowy tomorrow. This is one area that I do expect all snow, no potential light icing or even sleet pellets. Springfield north of 40 won't have anything but snow. And again, that ice and sleet potential is relatively low this is mainly all a snow event for us all. A great reminder, too, that we want to see your pictures. Just do it safely, of course. You go to fox17.com to our Chime In page. So Fox 17, this is the front of our page here. You click on this or hover your mouse over this and go on down to Chime In. And that's the way you could submit your pictures, and we can get them on the air and share the beautiful pictures and sights that you are seeing in your backyard or your neighborhood. As we head through tomorrow morning, 6 a.m., we're looking at snow showers across the area. 7, 8, 9, those snow showers continue to pick up. Notice our percentages going up quite a bit. So we'll start to see a few light snow showers as early as 6, but it goes up drastically by 7, 8 o'clock. And that's when we're expecting widespread snow across the area. I thought this was fun. I did some digging and looked back at the last top 5, I should say, snowfalls that Nashville has seen in a 24-hour period. So it's a one-day total in the last 40 years. You notice a trend here: January, 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 January. So January is our month for big snows. 1988, 8.1 inches. That's the most snow we've seen in the last 40 years. 8 inches was back in 2016. 7 inches in 2003 on January 16th. In 85, we had 6.7 inches of snow. And last year on the 15th, and then again on the 6th in 2022, we had 6.3 inches of snow. This is territory we could be in tomorrow if the forecast pans out. Even a few pockets, 7, 8. I think that'll mainly be more toward the plateau, but it is not out of the realm of possibility. As we take a look here again, the temperatures are going to struggle over the next several days. So we are looking at highs in the 30s by Sunday. That is going to be one of our first good days for melting. So we're in code red for tomorrow. It's a snow day. As we go into Saturday, mainly in the morning, it's code red mainly for the roads and the light snow showers that'll continue. And then we get into Sunday and Monday. Gradually each day, conditions should improve, but we will be looking at a lot of melting and then refreezing Sunday night into Monday. Same thing, we've got colder air rushing in for Monday, so we're going to be seeing a lot of melting and refreezing over the next several days here. So this won't be a one-day thing and then it's gone. It's going to be with us for a while. You take a look at the 7-day forecast, low 30s through Saturday. Good melting for Sunday, but 30s on Monday and low 30s with teens for overnight lows early Tuesday and Wednesday morning.
This Fox 17 News Code Red Alert is sponsored by Sarah Chevrolet Buick GMC Cadillac.
Just ahead, doing now to prepare for winter weather.
And staying safe in this winter storm, where you can find warming centers across the volunteer state. Continuing our winter weather coverage tonight, Nashville International Airport is getting ready for the storm. BNA says that they are stocked with ice melt and de-icing products for the runways and paved areas. They say it's up to each individual airline to handle getting the planes to the gates and de-icing them.
Tennessee Emergency Management Agency has already opened warming centers around the state ahead of this winter storm. Right now, 64 shelters are open, and again, that number is statewide. The agency's overflow shelter here in Nashville is already up and running. There are warming centers open as well in Clarksville, and Lebanon actually has 2 different places where people who may need to get out of the cold to stay warm. Several others are across the state. If you need to find one of the warming centers near where you live, go online to fox17.com. This map is there, and you can find the one closest to you.
Well, moving on, where the longtime voice of the Titans will be headed next football season. Well, new tonight, Mike Keith, the voice of the Tennessee Titans, is moving on after 27 seasons calling plays at Nissan Stadium.
The longtime announcer will become the voice of the Tennessee Volunteers, both football and basketball next season. This follows the retirement of Bob Kessling. Now, this is a talker, obviously, and we want to know what you think. Will you miss Mike Keith as the voice of the Tennessee Titans? He's the only one we have known. 225 people weighing in, and 7 out of 10 say, yes, we will miss Mike Keith, perhaps best known for that legendary call of the Music City Miracle. Polls live right now. If you would like to cast your vote, why scan the QR code there on the right-hand side of your screen. It will link you to our poll, and we will update the numbers coming up tonight on Fox 17 News at 10.
Before the fires are even out, a potential catastrophic insurance crisis looming in California. I'm Matt Gelka in Washington, and I'll have the story coming up.
This is Fox 17 News at 10, your Code Red station.
Fox 17 News, we're in a code red weather alert as a winter storm bears down on the mid-state.
Now, we feel very strongly this is going to be a high-impact event, and our code red chief meteorologist Katie Morgan, who's been tracking the storm for days, is here. And Katie, you're really firm on the timing now, too.
Yeah, it does. At least first snowflakes expected just after midnight in our western counties, probably closer to 5, 6 o'clock in the morning here in Nashville.